Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Reviews with Tyberius. Today we're going to be talking about the new Who, otherwise known as the Doctor Who rebooted series that started in 2005. There's a lot to be added on to this, right? Like, we can talk a little bit about old Who, which I haven't really watched any of that. I'm going to talk about the movie, but for anyone who doesn't understand what Doctor Who is, it is a science fiction show that is actually probably the longest continuous running sci-fi show of popularity. It's actually quite a bit older than Star Trek. I think it starts in like 1963, if I remember right. But it has a very particular literary device or storytelling device. Yes, I am recording this. Anyway, yeah, it stopped. Yeah. So I'll talk about that. Nothing's continuous, right? Like, Star Trek was off the air for a while. And going into, like, Star Trek was off the while. Like, Star Wars has been, like, on and off pretty much since the start. But no, it's been, like, the longest running, like, science fiction show that's still largely a big thing. It's got a huge amount of hours, a remarkable amount of episodes, quite a bit going on for it. But anyway, it starts in the 60s, I'm thinking like 63. And what the device is that allows it to transform and become kind of a different show as it ages is that it has this thing called regeneration, where the main character basically becomes another actor or somebody else, and the character is supposed to be the same, as in it is still the Doctor, but the person playing it brings a new take on it, a new spin on it, if you will. And that allows the show to constantly reinvent itself every couple of years. And it's actually a really good storytelling device, because you can literally have, like, the framework that is this character, the Doctor, where there's some, like, tenets that you have to, like, hold on to consistently. But a lot of it is, all right, cool, you have a new Doctor, and he's older, or he's, whatever, or she. And you get into exploring who that character is, because it has the memories, or it, as in the person, has the memories of the person who came the people who've come before, but on the other side of that is that they are developing themselves. And it's basically like hitting the reset button on your life to some degree, where you have all your prior experiences, but you become a different person entirely. It actually has a really good question in metaphysics and philosophy and all that, that sometimes it explores very well. And we'll get into that. But I have not watched old Who, like, at all. And I think it would be really hard for me to watch a lot of it. The production values aren't really that great. And it's kind of campy. But, not to say it's a bad thing, but it doesn't have, like, the nostalgia appeal that, like, Star Trek The Next Generation has for me, where I can still watch it. If they ever get around to remastering some stuff, maybe we can definitely see that, but I doubt that's going to be a thing. The BBC is not quite like CBS and all that. Alright, so brought some water this time, because, man, I didn't think that Star Trek review was going to be very long, and then it turned out to be quite longer than the Star Wars one. So, alright, let's talk about New Who, and I want to make something clear. I didn't watch any of the other stuff before 2005, even the movie, which I probably could. But also, I'm not counting in Jodie Whittaker's Doctor Who, but just because I haven't seen it yet. I've heard some things, whether they be good or bad. I have a rule about this, and just kind of show you, like, where I'm at with this. The reason why I haven't watched Jodie Whittaker's stuff is not because of the, oh, it's a woman, oh, any of this shit. What it is for me is that I originally found the rebooted Doctor Who series in 2011 when Matt Smith was in his first season. And that's when I started watching it. And, of course, I got caught up, but then Matt Smith had only had one season. And I was not really impressed with that. And I didn't really, like, want to watch the show that much anymore. Well, long story short, I picked the show back up in, like, 2014, and Peter Capaldi had one season. And so I got through Matt Smith and grew to like it more. And then I'm watching this new Doctor, and I'm not really impressed with the new Doctor. And, I'm kind of sitting there, I'm like, all right, and I didn't watch it up until catching up into, like, literally this year, is when I finally caught up with Doctor Who, or at least the Peter Capaldi years. So, I mean, that just kind of shows you, like, where I'm at with that. So, the reason I haven't decided to watch Jodie Whittaker, even I just, recently watched Twice Upon a Time, is that I don't want to give her just 1 or 2 seasons. I want to have a full story that I can kind of go along with. So if I'm not like a huge fan of the first season, I can watch the second season and maybe it'll get better, and then I can watch a third season, which I believe they're working on her third season right now. I've kind of just been burned by watching the first seasons of these new Doctors, and they're just. We'll talk about this quite a bit actually during this, but the first seasons are the Doctors really kind of exploring themselves both as the actor and the writing crew behind them, and like making this Doctor into what they wanted that character to be. I love how fucking chat just drops on me all of a sudden. Like, what the hell? All right, whatever. But no, anyway, the Doctor is quite a wonderful. Quite a wonderful, interesting character, even though it has many different faces and many different viewpoints, is that it allows you to explore some good stuff. So let's start out 2005. It's the reboot with Russell T Davies, and of course you have Crystal Eccleston playing. I'm not a big fan of Eccleston's Doctor, but I think it really has the problem that I have with each and every Doctor that's come along the line. The first season's just kind of rough. You're trying to still explore this character and, you know, figure out like what this Doctor is actually going to participate or like kind of like grow into, and usually you don't even really get done until the end of season 1 for that, and you know, even season 2 is still fleshing out the character quite a bit, and I mean, the characters tend to grow quite a bit, and we'll definitely talk about this coming into the later on Doctors. But at least for me and Christopher Eccleston, I didn't like him really at first, and like the better part of that first season, I just didn't really care much for the show. It was the fact that I watched a couple episodes, or an episode or two, featuring David Tennant, and I'm just like, oh, I want to get to that. I want to see where this takes off. And so I definitely wanted to get to there. Anyway, so... his series kind of comes to an end with I can't remember what the episode's called, but it has Rose taking in the time vortex and destroying the super Dalek. He does get explored a little bit, but he's not grounded as much as I would like him to be. He's manic. He's really like fun-loving and easy at some point, and then he's like manic at other points. And they do hint at it, like the time war and like the fact that this character's been through a major struggle. And of course, I haven't seen what the character was beforehand to really ground that. Like, this is my first experience with the Doctor. It's just the Doctor seems a little unhinged, which they kind of sell me on a little bit, but they only hint at it. They don't really like blow out the backstory in a massive way. And if had you told me that Doctor Who had not started in 2005, I wouldn't even have known. Christopher Eccleston's character Christopher Eccleston's Doctor is not a terrible character, but yeah, he only did 1 season. Just to answer in chat, Wes, I thought it was because he was not a fan of the production team. Like, he has a good relationship with Russell T Davies, but they like wanted him to do a bunch of stuff for the show that he wasn't interested in. That is really bright. Anyway, got that angelic thing going on. Anyway, I don't have a problem with Eccleston's Doctor overall. He just doesn't. I don't think he's done justice. True, I do. Anyway, I don't think that character's done justice because that character doesn't get enough time to have his day. He doesn't get a second or a third season to really be justified in what this character is and what it should be. And so, I just lands short. Really, when I'm starting to like him is where he, like, right before he regenerates. So that's unfortunate. But, what are you going to do? I'm kind of glad, though, because I do like David Tennant's Doctor. So let's talk about Doctor 10 and the 3, technically 4 seasons that David Tennant has the show. We're definitely going to get in the Series 4 split quite a bit. So David Tennant's character is done very, very well. I like the Doctor almost from the start. He's the first one that I immediately pick up on that I like really well. And it's both like who I am and who this character is that kind of like mash up, right? Tennant plays a Doctor that's very nerdy, that is kind of a goofball, but serious all at the same time. And like, he kind of oscillates. He's got a range, a very good range in him. And it's something I identify with because I'm kind of a goofball too. But not in like the, like, ha, that's funny, but more in the, hey, that's different, that's weird, and I love it kind of thing. I'm the black sheep kind of person. And so I very much enjoyed, I very much have enjoyed Doctor Who under David Tennant's run because he gives you a little bit of everything. So yeah, let's start Series 2. So Series 2 is him continuing with the companion Rose from the first series. Rose was really kind of iffy with me. She basically abandons her boyfriend that is in the story. Like, her boyfriend at the time, she just basically dumps for the Doctor. And it does the whole, like, I'm not really with them, it's just we're having fun together. And then season 2, that kind of just all bets are off, and there becomes more and more of a thing with them. And I mean, it's just either one of two things. Either one, I don't like this character because either it portrays her as shallow or it's like a very bad commentary towards women. I mean, there's some women like that will just go for the next greatest, biggest thing that they can find, but I don't think that's the majority of women. I find women to be very loyal, and I don't like this character because it doesn't really do any kind of justice for the character. Or, I'm sorry, excuse me. This is not a character I would like. I'll put it that way. If this was a character as a person, I wouldn't particularly care for her. And she is kind of very shallow in how that's played. Particularly whenever the first couple episodes with Tennent in there's a lot of flirtation going on. Particularly in the episode with the, the medical center, like the medical planet. I think it's New Earth, but they're in the hospital with the cats. And it's just literally a flirt fest the entire way through. Anyway, I'm not huge onto her as being a companion. She gets better, but it's actually more over after she leaves and she comes back for Series 4. But we'll talk more about that. But the series goes pretty well. I do believe that these characters have a little bit of a thing for her, but I mean, the biggest problem I have with the Doctor and like kind of falling for any of his companions is that they don't really sell me on it. Particularly how this Doctor would look at. I almost think that the Doctor would look at humans as ants, and there's sometimes where they really sell me on that. But on the other side of that is the Doctor seems to just like and love anybody, and that they have yet to do this where they really sell me on any of the Doctors really like having this appreciation for people. That to me doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, I will just paraphrase to get over to Peter Capaldi. They did more with him, and Stephen Moffat did more with him than and selling me on the idea of why the Doctor likes people than any other. But we'll get there during the Capaldi era. So Series 2 is with Rose as a companion. It's okay. It's got hit highs and lows, but I'm not a big fan of Rose. The Doctor's really coming to his own, and I like him because he's like kind of goofy and nerdy, but he's he's also quite serious when he can be, and he's very knowledgeable. And it's a character that I innately kind of identified with very much. And to get into like some of the stories, the series finale is actually really good. It actually does make me believe that these characters do have some kind of connection, and they are very upset whenever they're forced to split apart. It has the Daleks versus the Cybermen, and I'm going to have to hit it. I love the line. This isn't war, this is pest control. Fantastic line. Some great stuff. Some good old times. But actually, I want to give a shout out to my favorite episode of this series. It's not the series finale. It's the Satan Pit. And it's a 2-part episode. Basically, the Doctor and Rose come up against basically the primordial evil, if you will, or the representation of that. It is a super powerful, malevolent entity that is basically typecast as what we would call the devil. And it's very interesting because they get into like the philosophy of like the devil, not only in Christianity but in all of them, and they impress us that this is the ultimate evil, the roots of the avatars, if you will. Yes, and it's the Satan Pit and something else. Like it's a 2-part episode, but it's a wonderful thing. And yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the plot of this episode. They just roll in, they find a language on the side of the wall, and the TARDIS can't translate it. It's impossibly old. They come to find out that they're basically on this research base, and then people start dying, and weird stuff starts happening. And they eventually come across this entity that they don't know what it is, but it's telepathic, and it actually can control a race of, I hate to say this, slaves that we call the Ood, and it starts taking control of them mentally, and it starts killing people, it starts forcing them into bad situations, and they're trying to basically fight this entity and the Ood, and it portrays the Ood in a very bad way, and also has a huge, at least between the lines, has a huge commentary on how we perceive slavery, and the regard that the Ood are seen as weak-willed, feeble, dumb, and are controlled. And there's definitely if I ever do like just a video episode or essay on this episode or a review on this one episode, I'm definitely going to be talking about how the Ood are portrayed and how we still have things about dehumanizing not only humans, but then also getting into other species. Because if you had done this for humans, I think there would be an absolute shitstorm. But if you make it an alien, then it's okay. And it passes by the censors. But I want to just reading chat just for a second. Yeah, the companion's supposed to be our perspective. It doesn't really do that very well. Like, the camera's our perspective. You can have the companion largely be there to ask the questions to facilitate that, which is something that in the 10th series, the character of Missy does very, very well, which is what is it? Nadal is comic relief, and what was it? Bill is exposition, and that's hilarious. I love that. I love that she literally breaks the fourth wall. But we'll get to there in Series 10. Series 2, to wrap up, we were talking about the Satan Pit, and the Satan Pit was a wonderful episode because it kind of gets into like what is evil and what could be the ultimate evil. And it asks some questions, but it doesn't really give you answers. And this is why I love sci-fi, because it provokes thought and not gives you the answers. And I love that kind of sci-fi, is that it promotes Star Trek, Star Wars, the Orville, a lot of other sci-fi that we can get into that I will definitely be reviewing at some points. Is that I don't like the episodes that just hand you an answer. Like, oh, well, this is my values and this is what we should believe. It makes you ask the questions. And particularly if it does it very well, it will present both sides in like the Steelman version of them, and like actually makes it to these are tough choices in how we understand not only ourselves, but each other, and into the greater social context that we have. These are wonderful things. So what they find out, and this more is in the second part of the episode, is that this creature was imprisoned on this planet that is suspended literally next to a black hole. The planet should absolutely be sucked in. Turns out it's a prison for this creature. It does not really explain why the research team is there, but they are. And anyway, it was imprisoned there, and if the creature ever starts escaping, the planet will be sucked into the black hole because it has a trap door on it, basically, or a tripwire, if you will. The whole facilitating of this is that the beast can take multiple forms. It can affect your mind. It can get into the minds of people, which, spoiler alert, it takes control of a person, and this person becomes the new vessel for that. And you can see that I think a little bit in episode 1, but like the entire second part of the episode is the beast and the body is still stuck at the bottom of the pit, but the mind, the brilliance, the intelligence of the evil is actually in another person. And it comes to a crescendo at the end of it where the Doctor basically tries to destroy the beast, realizes that the intelligence isn't there, it still does it anyway, and then Rose is left to deal with the intelligence, which she finds a very interesting way of getting rid of that. That's actually quite a bit. This is an anime. No, this is Doctor Who. This is a major show on Twitch, or I'm sorry, not Twitch. Excuse me, the BBC in Britain. It's still has really high ratings. Usually gets about 8 million viewers last I checked. I like it. It's a nice sci-fi show. Could be better, could be worse. But yeah, we're just finishing out season 2 of the rebooted. So, Bean, definitely check out this review when it goes online on YouTube. All right, let's talk about season 3. Series 3 is Series 3 is quite a bit different because the Doctor ends up picking up a new companion, and I can't remember if it's a Christmas special or not. I'm trying to remember her name. Martha. I can't remember what the hell her name is. It's Freema, or I can't Argentine. I can't remember. That's the actor's name. I can't remember the character's name off the top of my head. You'll have to give me a second here. I am just drawing blanks, and I apologize for doing that. Oh, it is Martha Jones. I was thinking it was a different character. I apologize. I had to look that up because I was thinking Harriet Jones. I was getting those two confused, and I was like, no, it's not Martha, but it is. Okay, so Martha Jones is the new character, and it's played by Freema, and she's interesting in some ways. She's I feel like the character's let down. When she's introduced as very intelligent, very capable, but also looking for adventure or seeking some fun. And I love where this character is brought up into. Like, you know, the first episode, it's like her hospital's like thrown onto the moon. But she realizes, like, oh, yeah, the oxygen's still here, we'd all be dead and all this. And the Doctor really likes that. And I was really impressed with this character, too, because I thought she was going to be somebody who was, strong, intelligent woman that actually knows... that actually can be a kind of not a foil, but a decent pillar to the companion or to the Doctor. But I feel like that goes away pretty quickly for her character being the role of the exposition once again. And this is the problem. One of the problems I do have with Doctor Who is that the companion character tends to get dumbed down and kind of just be along for the ride so that we can understand the plot, but that doesn't really work for me very well, is that these characters will lose quite a bit of their character in some regards. And Freema's character, Martha Jones, definitely has this. It's actually, I think, the worst of any of them. That she comes off at the start being very intelligent, very gifted, and then completely, she completely kind of demeans her and kind of destroys her as a character. And they'll try to make up for that, as Wes was pointing out there towards the series finale, but I think the damage was already done. And it actually makes it even worse because, like, she basically makes a cult around the Doctor to save him at the Series 3 finale. And by the way, the Series 3 finale is absolutely the worst. I didn't care for this whatsoever. It's bad. It's bad. I don't remember any of the highlight episodes, though. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Blink is the highlight episode of this series. Granted, it doesn't really have a lot of the Doctor or Martha in it, but it is Stephen Moffat's real first time to bat as a story writer for Doctor Who, and he makes literally one of the most famous antagonists of Doctor Who, and actually is one of the biggest antagonists that is in New Who and Doctor Who at large. And of course, that's the Weeping Angels. Very interesting villains to have. I quite like the work of the Weeping Angels and like what they represent, what they do. Basically, for anyone who doesn't know, the Weeping Angels, unfortunately, you're kind of right there. But like, Martha isn't a terrible character. She's just underutilized and she's kind of thrown through the mud, and that really sucks. Because she could have been great. She starts off really strong, and she's gorgeous. So yeah, they're mask off. But anyway, just to bring this all to a hold, is that you have Blink. Blink is a very interesting episode from this series. It's quite a bit of fun. And the Weeping Angels, they if you are looking at them, they cannot move. They are frozen in time. But nice quote, by the way. If you look away, they can move, and they're basically, their special ability is if they touch you, they send you backward in time, and they feed off the energy from you being displaced in time. And that's a very interesting plot point, very interesting in how that works. And so it's a nice little episode, nice little story into itself. I wish it would be explored quite a bit more, but it just isn't, and that's very sad. In the regard of that, this probably should have been a 2-part episode, actually, because it starts with a really good premise that this girl's friend who she's hanging out with gets touched by the weeping angel. She's sent back in time, and she sends her friend a note through her grandkid. And it opens up a lot, but it doesn't really explore that nearly as good. Of course, there will be some other episodes later on in the Matt Smith era that will do this a little bit better. I can't remember, the crash of some ship is what it was. It was like the crash of the Chrysanthemum or something like that. But anyway, Series 3 actually was one of the lower points for me, and it's very sad because it could have been so much better, but it just isn't. Series 4 is manic, psychotic, and bipolar as fuck. And the reason why is that it's basically 2 mini-seasons put together into one. And from what I understand, there was a lot of things going on in production. The show was kind of changing, and David Tennant was being more involved with other projects. If I remember right, Harry Potter being one of them. He's playing Barty Crouch Jr., and so he doesn't have the full time to really do the production for a full season, which sucks. So they literally have like a 6-episode season 4 and like a 6-episode season 5, and they just smack it into one season. And to show you this is that Tennant takes over in 2006 for season 2, season 3 is 2007, season 8 or season 4 is basically 2008 and 2009, and it kind of all wraps up in like early of 2010. So they spread this over a huge amount of time, and it's very it's very unfortunate because there's a lot of content here, and it literally has like 2 season finales. It's huge in scope, and it's just basically the long and the short, at least for me, is that season 4 is just all over the damn place because it's trying to do a lot with the little time that it has, and it actually probably does a little too much. It doesn't have like these character-centered story arcs nearly to the degree that like a full season would have, and the characters suffer for this. Catherine Tate comes back from the Christmas special, The Runaway Bride, where she is I can't remember her character. I gotta remember her character's name. I apologize. Somebody remind me in chat what her character's is. But she actually is kind of a foil to the Doctor in the regards that she's kind of like quirky and like supposed to be funny and a comedy relief character. But she's never really like shown off as smart to begin with. And so she fills a lot of the roles that the writers need her to without actually like demeaning her as a character. You're not expecting her to be like a rocket scientist, which they actually do in one particular episode, but we'll table that. What really happens is like there's a couple of episodes here and there, and they're really not. I don't remember that like the first phase of season 4 being that memorable, but then it just amps up and kicks off with basically what would have been that season finale, which is that the stars are going out and the universe is coming to an end, and it's this master plan by Davros and the Daleks to what was it? Donna Noble. Thank you very much. That's her character. It's this master plan to basically destroy the universe and end the creation of all things, and it's got a really good thing going on. And there's just not a lot of lead up to it. Like there's a hint 1 or 2 episodes before that of where the story's going, but it doesn't have like this whole series beat up and it just lead up, and it kind of just drops it on your head. And so all of a sudden you see at either the very end of an episode or the very beginning of this 2-parter, Rose is back, and she just somehow is this mega badass and whatnot. It brings together. Honestly, it should have been David Tennant's swan song. He probably should have went off with this because it's like action packed and whatnot. But it brings together all the spin-off stuff. It has the Torchwood cast involved in it. It has what is it? Sarah Jane? Yeah, Sarah Jane is part of it, and I don't think they really touch her or her side characters. Maybe a little bit, but like hers, she's in it as well. And then you have all three of the Tennant companions coming back with Rose and Martha Jones and Donna Noble all in it. It's an action-packed cast, and it's got a lot going on, and it's a really good like little action sci-fi romp around. And it explores quite a bit, and actually it explores the one character that needed to be explored, which is the Doctor. And Davros kind of pushes the Doctor to the edge, and actually Tennant shows a lot of anguish and a lot of anger towards what's going on with this. There's a lot that happens in this two-parter. And it's really right in the middle of the season because, as I said, it was supposed to really be the end of that particular year. The school episode with the universe equation has Jane. Yes, that's where the Sarah Jane Chronicles. Yeah. That episode isn't really that good, though. It sucks. But yeah, where they introduce her back is not very great. And most of the season, I don't remember being like any kind of knockout. It's literally just kind of meh, bang for this first phase. And just to kind of finish up where this is that this is an action-packed thing that probably should have been Tennant's swan song, and probably he should have regenerated at the end of this. And we'll talk about the phase 2 of this series going in and whether that would have been good or bad. Because in some ways it is David Tennant's best work. But yeah, it brings basically the Doctor Who expanded universe all into one to series finale, and it works pretty well. Or not series finale, but season finale, which is mid-season, and it works for the end of 2008. I think is when this drops. So it's good fun, but it's underserved, and it has a lot of going on for it. But it does have Davros push the Doctor to very big limits, and in some ways it gives. It's really weird. There's what they call a meta crisis, and you end up getting two Doctors, one like half human, but still the actual, and then you have the actual Doctor, and basically half Doctor ends up hooking up with Rose and living in the alternate universe that Rose lives in, and so like it's got a little bit of a cheesy happy ending. Again, I wasn't a huge fan of Rose, so that really didn't do anything for me. But it largely ends off with that, and then you get to the phase 2, and this is the problem with this. Phase 2 has more character exploration of David Tennant's Doctor than anything, because it pretty much just starts out with the fact you're going to die, and it has the prophecies and all that, and he's trying to figure out like who he is as the Doctor, and he goes through some like really big pitfalls and really big highs and lows. And he's almost a little bit like having a manic crisis towards the end of all this. Some of it's a little fun. The Planet of the Dead is an example, which the would-be companion for that episode would have been great to see a full season with her. Michelle Ryan, I think, was her name, or the actress's name. And, you know, could have been really good. Just again, this part's underserved, but it does focus a lot on the Doctor, because the Doctor literally is just going around without a companion, and it's just standalone episode. And so you get all of these episodes that I can remember off the top of my head, or at least somewhat memorable. The Waters of Mars is kind of interesting. The Time Lord, and that largely opens up the Time Lord Victorious thing, where like the Doctor kind of goes off the deep end, and he basically tries to become the Master of Time, or the Lord of Time. Sorry, messing with my hair there a little bit. He tries to become the Master of Time, the Time Lord Victorious, as he put it. And he kind of goes off the rails, and it explores him because what he tries to fix just goes to hell anyway. And I'm not gonna overly spoil that, but it's definitely interesting. And then that rolls up into a couple other episodes, which eventually eats up into, It largely wraps up David Tennant as the Doctor, and he's basically kind of like full tilt the entire way through. The Master comes back, has this massive thing going on where he turns every human into the Master themselves, which is kind of lame and cringe. I don't know why, but what is it? Is it John Smith? Is that really his name? This Master is not very fun to watch. I did not care for this iteration. He's psychotic and manic, and that's really good, but he's just... His gimmicks are weird and ridiculous, and I didn't care for it. John Sim is his name. But anyway, I wasn't huge into his portrayal of the Master, and like a lot of his work is weird. But then you have kind of the second part of this is that this is a facilitator for the Time Lords to come back from the Time War, and that actually becomes the end of time. And this is Tennant's kind of last hurrah. And it's really good and bad, and it's a little all over the place. It's dealing with the Doctor foiling the Master, and then coming to find out that this is just kind of the Master's way of getting the Time Lords back. It's really weird, and it kind of works in the way that it's weird. And to kind of show you Tennant and where he's going with this is that, holy crap, I'm burning through time. Anyway, to show you where Tennant is going with this is that he's kind of falling apart at the seams, and it comes down to the final episode, or the final acts that he's in, where basically the semi-companion, which is Donna Noble's dad, and I can't remember his name, I think it's like George or something, he is kind of been the would-be companion for Phase 2, because you at least see him like at least once every episode. But he gets trapped in a thing, and the Doctor really kind of does something very undoctor-like, but I really like it. And he's just like, I could be so much more. I could, I shouldn't have to give my life for you. You're little people. And actually, the dude's like, hey, look, don't worry about me. I'm an old man. I've lived a good life. I'm gonna say goodbye. But then Tennant owns up that he is the Doctor, and he does the Doctor thing. He basically makes a sacrifice where he gets irradiated, and he starts his regeneration. And of course, he'll have a little bit of a send-off where he goes to meet all the other companions on his way out. And it's nice, but they kind of really already did this with the Phase 1 ending of that. And honestly, it's just a little much, if I'm being completely honest. They kind of don't do it the justice that needs to be done. They largely should have just kept with Phase 2 with Tennant going out on his own. And it kind of is his atonement for the Time Lord Victorious and kind of going off the rails and not being what he ascribes to be himself. And of course, that largely wraps up Series 4 and the Tennant era, which I like the Tennant era. It's very episodic of the week kind of feel. Like there's nothing like super serious, kind of like TNG, not serialized nearly to the degree that this show will definitely become under the Moffat era. But we're going to get into the Moffat era now with the rise of Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor. Okay, so a lot of people have like either very much love-hate relationship with Matt Smith's Doctor. I like him. He's okay. My problem with Matt Smith's Doctor, the 11th Doctor, is not Matt Smith and is not the writing for him. I think he's a good character. He's just a character that I don't really like that much. I don't really identify with this character. He's goofy, but not in like the goofy kind that I like, which is just a little bit eccentric. He's goofy and just like, bow ties are cool, and I'm gonna wear a fez. It's just goofy that is goofy, and it's not very endearing to me. And that first season for me is really rough because we're going off of David Tennant, which I really identified with on a personal level and attached to, into this character that I really didn't care for at all. On top of that, Karen Gillian, which is Amy Pond, and Arthur Duvall, which is Rory Williams. Their characters don't really interest me that much as companions, and they're supposed to be lovers. And husband, what is it? They're boyfriend and girlfriend, husband and wife, something like that. Boyfriend and girlfriend. And I thought we were going to get literally another Rose Tyler thing. But to the credit of Stephen Moffat, he walks away from that. And he makes Amy stay faithful to Rory, and they end up having a kid, which ends up having their own particular subplot with the kid has its own particular subplot. Spoilers. I had to do it. Anyway, I don't think that's in season 5. I think it's in season 6. If I remember right. It's been a quick minute since I watched that. But yeah, season 5 doesn't really take off very well. I think is Demons Run in season 8? No, I mean season 7. I think it is. Anyway, I apologize. I don't remember Matt Smith's run that well. There's some episodes that really do well, and there's a lot of episodes that are just really kind of meh for me. River Song is an interesting companion when she's brought in. Of course, I've kind of already alluded to this, but you have quite a bit that's added into what's going on, and it's really the Doctor's at his best when River's there, and the 11th Doctor is there when he's best, when he actually has to be drive out his passion and not his goofiness. And the Rings of Astrakhan or something like that. I can't remember exactly what this episode is, but he actually has to like bleed his heart out to this sun demon or sun creature that eats memories, and he like has the whole speech. I have seen things that people. I know things that no one ever must know. I have seen things that no one could ever unsee, and it's very passionate, and it's criminal to me because I really, really like Matt Smith's acting ability. I think he's fantastic. He's phenomenal in a lot of regards. I didn't care for the character of the 11th Doctor that he played. And it's only when he's actually serious as a character and he's trying to be somebody great that I really like him. And it's a great example of this as well when he has half his mind hijacked by the cyber computer. And he has like Mr. Clever versus the Doctor, right? It's a very interesting tidbit that goes on there because he's serious and he's engaged, and he does this, like, this character becomes something that I'm very interested in. I didn't really care for the Wedding of River Song that much. There's a lot here, but the long and the short here is that I don't hate the character. I don't hate Matt Smith at all. I don't side with those people that this is the bad time of the Doctor. I think Stephen Moffat can write as well. I actually like a lot of the directions and decisions that he makes. It's just he went for a character that was goofy, and I don't do certain types of goofy very well. But it's quite a lot of fun to see this character interact with with David Tennant. It's 10th Doctor, and particularly where the 11th Doctor does take off for me is at the very end of season 7, or the second half, with the rise of the new companion, Jenna Coleman, otherwise known as Clara Oswalt in the show. And this character takes off because he's got a companion, which, spoilers, is my favorite companion. And also, like, he's grieving. He's going through the loss of Amy and Rory. And she kind of brings him to a new way of, like, going about things. And this character is now more serious, more involved, and more mature, if you will, than Matt Smith ever has been. And to just kind of hit it where it's going here is that I very much liked the end of Matt Smith's era because he is a more serious character and he is a far more enjoyable character to watch. But really, it's just like, all right, cool. You know, he has his moment where he really hits his stride, and then it's the 50th anniversary special, the Day of the Doctor, followed by, if I remember right, the Christmas special, and then he's gone. He's no longer the Doctor. He is now regenerating into Peter Capaldi, and this gets into series 8, 9, and 10 in the Capaldi era. I really like that Matt Smith enjoyed the episode where he rooms with James Corbin. Screw that. That episode sucked. I didn't like the James Corbin subplot for a couple of episodes. No, thank you. No, that's actually like him at his goofiest, and that's just not fun. What was it? The baby's name? My name is Stormageddon. And he can, he's just, no, thank you. Going into Peter Capaldi's era. Now, Capaldi, when I originally watched him, again, I picked the show back in 2014. I watched the first season. I didn't really care for it. Capaldi now is my favorite Doctor. So that just goes to show you why I'm so committed not to like watching these shows. Just giving them one season at a time with the new Doctors. I'm going to wait until, Jodie Whittaker's 10 years either up or almost up before I start watching what her work is, because it just, I went from like this character, I'm like, wow, I don't even want to watch the show anymore, to wow, this is an awesome character and an awesome Doctor. And I'll ascribe to that. This is more of a personal reason, not a literary reason. Peter Capaldi joins the fray, and what happens here is that Jenna Coleman Clara is the companion most of the way through. It's only one season that he doesn't have her. And there's a chemistry here, not in the like a romantic chemistry, but actually as a role chemistry of Clara's character versus the Doctor jive very well, and it's very interesting in that regard because how do I put this? Peter Capaldi starts off as a very jaded Doctor, and this probably is part of the reflection from the Seeds of Trends lore. And they tried to go with him being a lot more dark, but it doesn't really justify itself. He's just kind of like jaded and kind of angry and a little bit mean. But it doesn't really make for a good character. And this first series, Season 8, is not really that good at all. What happens that makes this all better is Series 9. All of a sudden, it takes off, and that is Clara is actually learned a lot from the Doctor and is basically becoming a Doctor Light. And she goes, like, literally the end of Series 8 is that it has her as the intro because she introduces herself as the Doctor. And literally, like, that, it's weird because the Series 8 is kind of like this weird thing where Clara is more of a Doctor in some regards than the Doctor is. And it actually makes for very interesting. And it's got a nice plot going on with the new Master, Missy. And I really enjoy Missy as a character. She's very, very interesting overall. But she's the only good part about Series 8, in my opinion. And the series finale is actually quite good. I didn't care for the subplot with Danny Pink, and I thought that was actually handled poorly. But it kind of pays off in Series 9. So Series 9 is like just a highlight of the show for me. And it's not that every episode is good, but the overall story arc for Series 9 is great. The Doctor is contending with himself and who he actually is in a way that he never has before for any of the other characters that I've seen. He's old. He's like, I'm 2,000 years old. I've seen things. And he's angry and he's jaded, but he's more explored. He's more explored because he's trying to find, like, what is the good and why should I be the Doctor? And it literally is like the biggest introspection that the Doctor actually ever has, or at least under the characters that I've seen, is that he has legitimate reasons not to want to be the Doctor anymore. He has the legitimate reasons to be a completely different character. And in some ways he is. He diverts from being the normal Doctor, and it really goes into where something bad happens to Clara. And he completely shows, like, the polarity of what this Doctor can be. He's ascribing to be nicer and more gentle and kinder and better, but at the same time something bad happens, and he's showing that he will do anything and everything for those that he cares about, and he will be ruthless, tyrannical, and will, set the world on fire to save and protect those that he cares about. And this is a Doctor that I very much like, that forms out of this. And this is kind of where I identify with this Doctor on personal reasons. I have a jaded history myself. I identify a lot as a younger person with David Tennant, particularly in my late teens, early 20s, is that character is me in a lot of regards. But as my friend likes to tell me, I have quite a bit of an old soul. And as I've gotten older, I look at things in quite a bit of an older, maybe mature way. In some ways, definitely jaded. And this Doctor is kind of, unironically, like who I not only am becoming, but also who kind of I want to be in some regards. Is that I'm not going to treat everyone with kindness, compassion, and love, but I do aspire to be kinder and gentler than I used to be. And so this character really hits for me because when you feel jaded, when you feel like the world has wronged you, you can give into it. You can really just let the hate and the animosity and the distrust and the pain all out. And basically, if you will, be a reflection from what you see. But that doesn't necessarily make the world a better place. And this is one of those things where, it's not just cynicism. It's actually like a legitimate, disdain for the world around you. At least it is for me. And I feel like I resonate with the Doctor in that. Like, that's what this character tells me and betrays to me, is that like Peter Capaldi's Doctor actually convinces me that he's not really a big fan of the universe and what it has to offer. Yeah, it has a lot of things where you can go on adventures, but more often than not, if I'm not there, everybody dies. That's kind of shown off there. And so it kind of gives off to this. Sorry, I'm just going to get comfortable for a second. It kind of gets off into this different regard where Clara goes about her own way and she's growing as a character, but then she oversteps and it costs her dearly. And it's basically an exploration of the new Doctor the 12th Doctor on one having to deal with that, what he's willing to go through to fix that, and that is the basically the crescendo of Series 9, is that the Doctor more or less breaks. Very much in the same way that Tennent does, but in, at least for me, a far more conceivable way. It's not the, Tennent comes off as a little bit psychotic, where Capaldi comes off as, desperate. And, I'm going to say it, I like desperate characters because it's so human. Is that when you feel despair, when you feel remorse, when you feel all these things that you want to make things better or you want to protect what little you have left, is that it compels you to do not only stupid things, but also show a side of yourself that is very, I don't know how it is, it can be very dark, in a way, alright? You will, it's kind of the, path to hell is paved with the best intentions kind of motif that I really, hit people for quite a lot, is that, how do I put this? I'll read that here in just a second. I think people get lost in their zealotry a lot, and they try to make the world a better place, or at least something that I identify with quite a bit more myself, is that when you find a little bit of peace and happiness and stability, you want to protect it, you want to preserve it, and you're willing to break out the sword to defend it and to be something greater, to keep that, whatever the cost. And that's Capaldi's Doctor, and it's something that I really empathize with because I have that same feeling. If you're one of the few friends that I really have that I care for, I want to go to bat for you, and I'm willing to take out the sword against those who have harmed you and hurt you, kind of thing. And I identify with this character very well, and I like this character quite a lot because, and it really gets into Series 10 to where this character completely crescendos for me, both literally in a literary sense and a personal sense as well. So let me just say that Jenna Coleman goes out of the way at the end of Series 9. Could have been a little better, could have been worse, but I really enjoyed her character, but she got offered to play Queen Victoria, and I don't blame her for doing that. Definitely a good gig for her. I don't know if I'll watch the show, but I really enjoyed Jenna Coleman's acting. I really enjoyed how she portrayed the character, and she's my type. What can I say? I gotta be a little honest here. There's some bias there. So rolling forward, we're gonna hit Series 10, and Series 10 is that I hate the companions to a large degree. I think they're annoying, but the Doctor is, or at least the 12th Doctor is at his best. Peter Capaldi is at his best. So you have, excuse me. I'm having trouble here. So you have Bill Potts, which is Pearl Mackie, which is kind of this weird, quirky character that is just basically out for the trip and the ride. And the character's believable, and absolutely, I know a lot of people like this character, but I've never liked those people. In a regard, is that I hate the I'm quirky for I'm quirky kind of thing. And I talk about this with Matt Smith because the Matt Smith character in Pearl Mackie's Bill Potts is very similar. And I actually would have loved to see these two kind of bounce off each other. I think that would have been that actually would be a really cool what if, is to have Bill Potts and the 11th Doctor just hang out for a little bit. Because they would feed off each other, and that would probably be a beautiful thing. But quirky for the sake of quirky is kind of weird for me. I just don't care for it. And then you got Nordal, which is this really, what is it? He is very straight edge and very straightforward. He's very competent, but you really don't even see it towards the very end. And it bothers me a lot. Is that like his competence is completely underdone until the very end, and you don't really see like that very straight edge, straightforward, I can get shit done kind of person that he could have been. I'll put it this way: Pearl Mackey's Bill Potts is really good at being like a very prospective kind of character. It brings out, it's basically a really good foil or question for the people that are around her, and that actually does very well in Twice Upon a Time, which is the Christmas special that is Capaldi's finish. Is that she basically just questions the Doctor, both the new Doctor and the old Doctor, and like revealing their motivations. And it really goes into the joke that is the end of series 10 that I was talking about with Missy trying to become the Doctor, which I really need to talk about this a little bit. But Missy being Missy's just like role testing this, and she's like, yes, this is my companion's exposition and comic relief, and just pretty much breaks the fourth wall. And I know I mentioned this earlier, but I absolutely love that because it's incredibly true. It just stands out to me very much. It's just it shows that the characters weren't characters merely as they were functions, and that kind of sucks because I love character-driven stories, and it's just I don't feel like these characters really are all that great. That being said, Peter Capaldi's Doctor and Bill's chemistry this is the 12th Doctor and Bill's chemistry actually is kind of interesting because it feeds off each other in a certain way. Bill's kind of there to remind the 12th Doctor of his own humanity, and like looking for the better in people, and that actually does sell for me very, very well. That is the one thing that I really give one of the two things I give this season a lot of credit for, is that while I don't care for Bill Potts as a character because I don't really think she is a character, she proves to be a great facilitator for the 12th Doctor. So let's get into the other character here that actually is really big. We talked a little about Missy being or Peter Capaldi's master, if you will. And this character actually goes through the ringer. Basically, it goes to show that she's trying to make a redemption arc. She's trying to not be the master in a sense, or be basically stand with the Doctor, as the kind of meaning boils out. It gives me convinces me very much that this master's actually trying to be better. And there's some really good tours, and I would say that she serves as both a foil and a check for Capaldi's Doctor in many, many ways. I'm not going to get into like her overall arc, like I can do that for an individual episode, whether about her, about this season, what have you. But at least for me and where I'm at is I really enjoyed this character trying to grow into something else, and Capaldi's Doctor, the 12th Doctor, being there to kind of help guide, but also to be there to be... It's weird. It's almost in a way like a father figure, but also in a best friend kind of way. Is that there's a point where Missy kind of just opens up completely, and Capaldi like actually doesn't necessarily shun it, but kind of is like, look, it comes in time. And that's actually the one thing that I don't know if I like or not, because it shows a wisdom and an understanding, but also is that it's not really a me thing. And I'm the kind of person that, like, if somebody, throws out the lifeline, right? They come mask off, if you will, and they show their true colors, both good and bad, that they have serious things that they're trying to grow out of and become greater than. You should support them in that, and if they're willing to jump, I feel personally you have to jump with them if you're really going to validate their struggle for them, because otherwise it's really easy to be scared and close off, and you actually kind of validate the inner insecurities that they could have, and that really was unfortunate. And it would have been a really good plot device to actually have the Doctor like, well, if you're jumping, I'll jump with you. And he doesn't do that. Now, maybe that's the wiser thing to do. Like, that's kind of how it's portrayed. But doesn't really seem to have any kind of lasting effect, and that's something I think that should have been explored. When people are desperate, when people are broken, or more appropriately, when people are not happy with who they are and they're actually trying to make a greater change in their life and become somebody greater, it becomes that they usually can't do it alone. They need help, but they have to come to terms with who they are and what they've done. And that requires them to be not necessarily open, but they have to come open and mask off with the people that they're with, who are helping them through that transition. And that's the part that usually scares the average person, in fact most people, because they're not willing to look at somebody else's demons and see the good in them. And that's it's very unfortunate, and one of the big reasons why I don't honestly like people writ large, is that when it comes to actually doing the right thing or bearing a burden to help others, we're not willing to actually do it. We say we'll totally will, but when it actually comes to the grind, where the rubber meets the road, the metal meets the grindstone, if you will, is that so many times people will shun you. Some people will reject you or be scared of you or run in fear. And you can't do that for somebody who's trying to make amends. You have to be there for them. And help shoulder their burdens. Otherwise, sometimes they can't escape it alone. And that's basically the only real tragedy of this season that I have, is that that moment could have been a critical point, and I think they dropped the ball a little bit. Yeah, that's where it is. I'm sorry. I'm doing quite a bit of introflexion here too. Like there's a reason this Doctor in this season really hits home for me, because it hits so much that's going on in my own personal life, but also from the people that I've seen and the people around me, and it really explores human elements, or at least human elements that I've seen that really that I really understand. But I want to close out on Peter Capaldi's Doctor with the line that it's made famous by Nardal, which the Doctor consistently repeats going through the second half of this season, and that is, goodness is good without reward, or what is it, without witness, without reward, without hope, without witness, and without reward. Sorry, I apologize. I've kind of like taken that in for me personally, is that I love that, because it actually talks about people and their ideals and what happens when their ideals are challenged, and basically if they have to give them up, and it kind of shows you that your ideals are only really like grounded and true if you're willing to like sacrifice everything for them. And of course that's what the season finale of of season 10 is basically the Doctor's convinced he's going to die, and he's just doing everything he can to save a few people that he can. And that's a beautiful thing. And he like that before he goes to, quote unquote, to the final battle. That's what he utters to himself, because he becomes the embodiment of that. And it's a wonderful thing. Of course, there's some snaffery and some shenanigans where he gets away with it, and he basically starts regenerating, which leads into Twice Upon a Time. And so yeah, like it's really good outside of the fact that maybe it was time for the Doctor to die. I don't know. It would have been a great send-off for this character, but of course the show must go on. So at least for me, I want to just reflect in this really well. I've said this already a little bit, but this Doctor is kind of like not only like where I am, but also like who I'm coming to becoming. In a large regard, is that I could hate the world. I could hate everything about the universe and all this stuff, and you can give into it, or you can basically, in a term, aspire to be what you haven't had, and be the strength for other people, if you will. Is that when, if you understand what it means to have despair, if you understand what it means to suffer, you know how to empathize with that and how to more or less handle those that are going through it. And if you have the strength to do so, you can be a very positive influence upon the world around you. And that's something that I kind of really I take from this Doctor. And it almost brings me to tears right now, because that's kind of the choice that has been presented to me in my life, where I am more recently, is that you can give in and you can hate the world, or you can be what you think the world should be. Or at least you can be what you think the world needs more of. And if you have, you can basically just roll along the line of like, what's stronger, the person that just gives in and takes the sword out and beats the living hell out of everybody, or the person who takes up the shield and defends those who have no defender? That's kind of the metaphysical, philosophical question that this presents for me. And if you agree or disagree, I'd love to hear your thoughts. But I mean, that's kind of what I took away from the 12th Doctor, is that, I could hate the universe, but I choose not to. I choose to make the universe a better place, and I love a little bit of the gravitas and the confidence. There's the part where he's surrounded, and I love it. It's just like, oh, we're surrounded, wonderful, good. It means all the attention's on me. This character really just hits a lot of points for me. So twice upon a time. Just to wrap this up, the Doctor doesn't want to regenerate. The computer Capaldi is basically holding out. And he meets the first Doctor, and they basically do a small little retcon where they're like, hey, the first Doctor didn't want to regenerate, and they're both pulled out of time, and they have to figure out why they go on. Why do they let the story continue, if you will? Why do you get to become something else? And this is actually something that Doctor Who has really hit with me very hard with, particularly actually. To celebrate Matt Smith a little bit, his final lines before he regenerates really encapsulates this, and why I actually am very much a fan of Doctor Who. And I'm actually going to try to quote him, not necessarily directly, but paraphrase him. When Matt Smith, right before he regenerates, says something to the lines of, "We are different people throughout all of our lives," and it's only there for a moment, like breath on a mirror. But at any moment now, the new you is coming, and it's okay as long as you remember all the people that used to be. And I love Capaldi's and Matt Smith's going away speeches, if you will, because they are very emotionally impactful, and they both resonate and say something critical to the human condition. Capaldi's first being that you have a choice on who you want to be. You have a choice in aspiring to be greater, or rejecting that for something that is more, superficial or what have you. And it's just the whole, laugh hard, be kind. And basically, I think the last line, honestly, for him should have been, my hope goes with you. But he regenerates, and that's great. But Matt Smith actually wraps it up, at least for me, what Doctor Who is we're not the same person throughout our lives. Yeah, there's a lot of things in common, but we might not even question our identities, but we become different people as we experience different things. We might have a different approach to how we thought of things before. We could be kinder, we could be meaner, we could be more gentle, we could be more hateful. It's just it embodies that a person is a person to the regards of what they want to be, but they have the ability to move on. And honestly, I think that what Doctor Who hints at, and this is my thing, is that you have the ability, or at least I think most people do, have the ability to regenerate themselves, if you will. They can regenerate, reinvigorate themselves, and become somebody new. And, basically go on the journey. You can't completely drop everything that you are and, just rebuild. You have to take what you are, drop a piece here, and pick up a new piece. And basically each time that you become a new person or regenerate, is that you're allowed not a reset, but more of a a chance to make yourself more of what you want to be, and critically examine what you've had before and where you're going. And that's what, at least for me, what Doctor Who has come to mean, is that it's a representation of this character becoming something else and going towards what that character wants to be. And you can actually, the Peter Capaldi's Doctor hits this in season 9, where Capaldi was a guest star for an episode all the way back in series 4, The Fires of Pompeii, and it's implied that he chose that face of that person because of what happens in that episode. And there's a lot going on with that. Doctor Who is very interconnected and woven in when it's all said and done. It's a very fantastic series that I watched. But We're an hour and 10 minutes. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. Doctor Who has been an incredible emotional impact for me, and I do very much enjoy the show in some regards. Not perfect by any means, but I've enjoyed it, and I hope that a lot of the bad that I've heard about Jodie Whittaker's Doctor is not nearly as bad as what that people have said. I do know some people that are fans of Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, but they seem to be in the minority. I've heard both very good things about the writing and very bad things about the writing. But from what I understand, Season 10's kind of got the first season kind of vibe to it. Season 11 was, from what I understand, a lot of people were like it wasn't bad, but the Timeless Child, I believe, is the season finale for that. And, both I've been spoiled a little bit and heard what's going on is that, excuse me, what I've heard is that it kind of just hard retcons everything about Doctor Who, and it's kind of like in this limbo now about where Doctor Who's going forward. If that's the case, that might be good. It might be unfortunate. It'll be very much interesting to see where this goes, but I'm going to wait until I pretty much either get the idea that this Doctor is leaving, or that it's probably done a good 3 seasons where I feel like this character has been developed enough where no matter where I get to the end, that she's going to be a character that is going to be worth my time. And maybe it's not, but we'll find out. But anyway, I have been Tyberius D. This has been the New Who Doctor Who review. And if you enjoyed this, definitely check out my other content, whether it is the Star Wars one, the Star Trek one that we've already done, or we can check out, or you can check out my work on Mask Off or Geopolitics with Tyberius D. You can definitely check out my Twitch chat, where I definitely do all these things, and you can interact with me in the chat, maybe throw your own opinion in there. And go about these reviews with me. That'd be great, keeping me on board. I do want to shout out with the West Dude, who is my #1 patron, dropping 295 give subs here on Twitch since his time being a patron here, being on here with me and having so much time to support me and being part of this community and being part of this chat. So thank you very much, Wes, and I hope that you watching this will enjoy this very much soon. Anyway, that's been me. I hope you have a great time, and we'll catch you next time. Later on, guys.